3. Yes, 3. It's because we're going to video now.
Yes.
I keep thinking this is episode 2.
No, it's not.
But it's actually
Certainly
episode 3. You know what I'm like with just throwing numbers in there randomly.
Yes.
Like
like
got
17.
To 19 today. Actually got to 21 today.
21?
21, you remember? And he had a real fit about it, but we'll not go into detail about that.
I didn't literally have a fit, figuratively.
Not a literal fit, it was figurative. But what I actually thought we would start the podcast off, which I guess we're partially going to, but not to the degree that I thought we were going to. I thought it was going to be another story, once again, of how, podcasts are just a pain in the fucking arse.
Which they are still.
They are still, but we didn't have nearly the amount of same problems that we did usually.
No,
so I think we're improving a little bit, at least.
Apart from time.
Time-wise, but, there's only certain people you can blame for today's delay that we experience. You won't be experiencing this, but I'm not going to point out any names, So, but actually, it was pretty easy today.
It was.
So, nice quick setup. So, hopefully, if we can keep doing that in the future and guarantee a more regular upload, and you'll actually get these on Friday, like what we said we're going to do, and not Saturday.
It might be up on Friday, depending.
This one should still be up on Friday, which for you would be today, us would be tomorrow. Unlike last week's, which went up on a Saturday.
Saturday?
It went up on Saturday. That was just because of a lot of technical errors that we're having. Saturday.
Was it Saturday afternoon?
It would have been Saturday afternoon for us.
Right.
If you were over in the US, it would have been early Saturday morning.
Did you notify me when the actual upload finished?
Probably.
Are you sure?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I did keep them updated with the upload progress of it, but once it actually uploaded, I was like, right, I can chill out about it now, and I just completely forgot to bother telling you. So, but yeah, so we talked a lot about video games stuff last week, so I think we're going to go a bit more down the movie route this time around. We've got a few topics that we really want to talk about. One of them being about budgeting for films, and the other just being about, what we're like in terms of the actual filmmaking process. So that should be really interesting stuff. Yes. Not that we have a ton of experience in that area, but we've been doing it for a number of years now on an amateur level. So
I'm not even sure we could call it amateur level.
It's at least amateur level, at the very least.
I'd say if it's already a phrase, I'd say it to a subpar level.
I don't know. I think we're getting better.
Getting better now, certainly.
I mean, some of the stuff we're working on at the moment is certainly a lot better than what we've done in the past.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Actually, then, in that case, since we're already talking about it, why don't we just begin with that and just talk about what aspects of the movie-making process we're like. So is there anything that, first of all, that really stands out to you that you're like, that is my favorite aspect?
I like the creative. I will say to begin with, I like the creative process. Anything to do with creativity in movies, I am on it. If there's a bonus, I've mentioned this in a previous podcast, but if there are bonus tracks or anything for a movie that's got behind the scenes stuff, I am on that like Spider-Man on Mary Jane.
Wow.
Who one time killed her through that very same act.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny with me because with behind the scenes stuff, it's only at a certain point in time when I actually like that stuff. If the movie's not actually out yet, I don't want to see a damn thing from behind the scenes stuff. All I care about is the actual film itself. Once I've seen the film, the behind the scenes stuff, I'm just waiting for that. So I'm excited for the film to come out in the cinema. But then when it hits that Blu-ray release or the DVD release, the main reason I'm getting that DVD release or Blu-ray is just for the behind-the-scenes stuff. Right. Yes, I want to watch the film again. I'm very excited to watch the film again, especially if it's a film I liked. But the behind-the-scenes stuff is the main reason. So it kind of, if I had to rate a Blu-ray film, I would probably rate it based off of a lot to do with how much it had on the behind-the-scenes level of stuff. I think I was quite disappointed with episode 7 of Star Wars. It came out nearly 2 years ago now, because it didn't really have the level you'd expect from a Star Wars movie. I know the prequels were filled with behind the scenes stuff. It was if you put the three together, there was hours worth of stuff you could watch for behind the scenes. I mean, The Force Awakens, I think you're lucky if you had 20 minutes of stuff to watch. So there was interesting stuff in there, but it just wasn't to the level you would expect. But, you know, you got to understand it isn't George Lucas behind it this time. So it's Disney. And I think behind the scenes are getting lesser and lesser in terms of priority when it comes to film studios, especially because a lot of people just buy film digitally now. So, and they don't tend to put any of that stuff on the digital film.
They really
it's
should.
Literally just the film on the digital version, and they occasionally put a little bit of it for like the Blu-ray. What really pisses me off, though, slightly off topic, but still relevant, is when they'll put out the film, say 4 months after the film's been in cinema, they'll put the film out on DVD or Blu-ray, and it'll have 3 or 4 behind-the-scenes stuff. Everyone will rush out and buy it. And then half a year later, they'll release it on Blu-ray and DVD again, but this time it's the 3D special edition version, and this one's got an hour worth of behind-the-scenes stuff. So I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah.
You know what? You've probably, especially, because I'm sure they did this with Force Awakens, actually. I'm like, you earned a lot of money at the cinema from not only your fan base, but the people that like Star Wars, anyone that was just interested in checking out the film, wanting to see Star Wars the first time. I mean, you hit number 3 on like biggest grossing film of all time with Episode 7, and it made like more money than any film ever has in the US alone. So it's like, I think he's made enough. You could have just released all of that at the same time. You don't need to keep trying to bleed your audience dry. But yeah, I think in terms of actual filmmaking itself, there's 2 stages I like, and there's 1 stage I detest. Production work, as in the actual filming process of it, and post-production work, when there's actual physical stuff there for you to meddle around with and edit and do the effects for, work on the sound. Love all of that stuff, and literally every single aspect of it I'm interested in and want to dive further into. Pre-production, I hate pre-production. I like being creative and trying to come up with a concept, but actually then trying to put that concept down onto paper, coming up with stuff like storyboards, if you're going to go as far as doing animatics for things, ironing out any potential flaw in your plot, making sure everything is consistent with one another. Script writing in general, I don't hate script writing, but it feels more like work than the rest of everything else. I think I like it once I can see the actual project in progress actually being made, while when it's in pre-production stage it still feels like a thought process in your head, so it's not quite real. So I like the process when it's a bit more rewarding because it's real.
Right.
But the pre-production stuff, I just cannot get around it at all.
Well, that kind of makes you sound like Peter Jackson in The Hobbit.
Right.
Because as we know, that I think, was it The Hobbit that also had the actor strike going on?
Ooh, I'm not sure about that. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, if it's the case, I know that Peter Jackson was doing a lot of on-the-fly stuff, because you mentioned that he was doing that. And he was mainly doing the movie for the money. Allegedly. I'm not saying that you're PR, I'm just saying it looks that way.
It must have been a while since I told you that then, because that's very vague in my memory. The only thing I do know for a fact is that, as like everybody knows, is that the film was originally meant to be like 2 films or something.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if it was the studio or if it was Peter Jackson himself that wanted to split it up.
It was
into 3.
Guillermo del Toro was going to do it was going to direct it originally.
Yes, that's right.
And he had other projects to do. I think it was Pacific Rim and something else. So he went off to do those projects. He finished them, and but by the time he finished, the Hobbit was already out. And Peter Jackson was Peter Jackson took over. So I think it was originally going to be just a single movie, which is going to be The Hobbit. And Peter Jackson decided to split it up into 3 separate movies, where I think it was advised to him that maybe 2 should be his limit, but he decided on 3 for some reason.
That was like really round about the time period when splitting movies and from being 1 movie into 2 movies was a really popular thing.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the movie that really started it had earned it, because I think Harry Potter was really the one that started that process of doing that, which trended off into other films trying it out as well. but the other films were just doing it because the Harry Potter films were successful for it.
I don't think you can go as late on as Harry Potter, because Lord of the Rings did come out before Harry Potter.
Right, but Lord of the Rings is like it's 3 full stories, though. It's not taking one story and then splitting it off into 3 separate movies. It's like literally, it's got a beginning, middle, the first movie, beginning, middle, and end. Second movie, beginning, middle, end.
Third movie, beginning, middle, end.
So, that was fair enough. But like with Harry Potter, it was literally part 1, part 2. Films never really did that before. I mean, there's exceptions to that, yes. But not to that same extent where you're taking literally one story and saying this will be now part 1 and part 2, half a story. Because that's really risky.
While the movies were going on, weren't some of the books still being written for?
Well, not while the original Harry Potter movies were being made, yes, but not not when the last 2 Harry Potter films were being made.
Yeah,
the books had been finished for years at that point.
Although, if we want to go into the stage production and Fantastic Beasts, then that would still be the case.
Well, yeah, technically, but I think Fantastic Beasts had long been written before the Harry Potter films had finished. Yeah, because the Fantastic Beasts book is nothing like the film. The Fantastic Beasts book is literally, imagine if you existed in the Harry Potter world and there was a book telling you about all the creatures and animals that lived in that world. So it's a factual book, and the Fantastic Beasts book in our real world is that book.
Right.
So it's basically like, it's not a dictionary, but it's basically like a non-fiction book on all the creatures and animals that live in that world.
Right.
And so this movie is based off of that. But I know J.K. Rowling still had a hand in writing Fantastic Beasts movie. And it's a pretty decent film. Yeah. It's not great, but it's pretty decent. But yeah, so the Harry Potter started doing the 2-part trend, and then I think films like bloody Twilight tried to jump on that.
Twilight.
Hunger Games tried to jump on that. And the problem with that is that it hurts the film because you have all the build up in part 1, and then you have like the payoff in part 2, but it's been a year since you got the build up, so the payoff doesn't feel rewarding unless, of course, you've literally just watched part 1 before you went to the cinema to go and watch the film. But even then, it's not to the same extent. I think you can get away with it if the cinemas are doing something special, like showing them back to back, the part 1 and so showing off part 1 before the midnight release of part 2 or something. Which some cinemas have done for stuff like Harry Potter and other films. But I know I haven't watched Twilight, so I couldn't really give an opinion on that. I've like checked out, I think the first one, it wasn't for me,
Yeah.
As I don't think it should be for anyone, to be honest. But I used to be into Hunger Games. I used to, especially the second one. Really liked the third one. Then I saw the fourth one, and I was like, I'm done with this. It's not worth it. The payoff was not rewarding whatsoever. It actually probably made us angry, to be honest. So I'm like, honestly, unless they go back and do like the very first Hunger Games or something, like the very first Hunger Game to ever happen, I'm probably not interested in this franchise anymore if they decide that they're going to continue it.
Right.
But so I think Hobbit was going on during that period of time when all these films were jumping on that. And so they're like, yeah, Lord of the Rings was huge. It was really popular. We'll do another trilogy. It'll make loads of money. We'll split this one story up into 3 parts. Plus, Lord of the Rings is there's a lot to tell in that one story. Whereas Hobbit's like this tiny book. So to try and stretch that over there. And that really hurt because, I think the best film out of the Hobbit franchise is probably the middle one. Desolation of Smaug, I think it's called. Don't remember what
wait.
It is Desolation of Smaug.
Is it?
Yes.
Is that the third?
No. Smaug's dead within the first 10 minutes of the third one.
Is it not 5 minutes?
3 minutes, probably.
2.5.
Like 1. In fact, literally, the film starts and he just drops out of the sky and dies. Which I thought really sucked, to be honest with you. But like the first one is just, I agree with a lot of people, it is majority just walking. It's a lot of build up. The second one actually has like a coherent story go on, and then the third one's just this endless battle, which is entertaining the first time you watch, but I've never went back to watch the third one again.
Right.
But I remember being excited for the third one because it ends with that cliffhanger of Smaug, and I was like, oh yeah, he's going to be in a big chunk of the third film, and then when he's dead within the first 30 seconds, it's just, it's a massive letdown.
Yeah.
So
I don't think the Hobbit movies are actually good in any case.
I think there's good things about them. I think the actors are good.
There is barely any consequence for any of the decisions that they make. You remember the scene in the first one when they're going through the mountains, there's giants and stuff. They don't get hurt by any of the giants, coincidentally, even though they're freaking throwing mountains at each other. When they're on the bridge with the... I don't want to say gremlins. I don't want to say trolls.
Ogres? No, it wasn't
No,
ogres.
no.
No, because that was failure.
Goblins.
Yeah, goblins.
Yeah, because it was Goblin Town. Which is a really weird name for a town. I would not talk... I know they are goblins, and it's a fictional place, but Goblin Town sounds really cheesy.
Now I'm not even sure it was goblins.
You sure? So I'm pretty sure it was called Goblin Town.
I don't know. It's been so long since I watched the first one.
Well, in any case, they were on the bridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they pull off all these fantastical stunts, like not falling off for one. When the bridge eventually collapses, they somehow don't get injured. I don't think there's enough consequence in The Hobbit to make it actually, oh god, they're going to die. Oh no, they're not. In the barrel scene...
I was just going to say the barrel scene.
They get through ridiculous.
They get through that pretty easily.
Orlando Bloom, I love you, but please, Legolas is really a bad character in the movies.
Especially considering he shouldn't have even been in The Hobbit in the first place.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah. You know what? I
didn't mind Legolas' sister though.
No, but there's an act. Well, I can't remember his name. He's in the I think it's the latest Dracula film that came out.
Dracula Untold.
The lead actor from that is in the Hobbit film. I think he's introduced in the second one, right?
Yeah, he's the bowman.
Yeah. Do you not think he kind of looks like Orlando?
A little?
He does.
I think he's like a combination between...
When I first watched the second film, I thought it was Orlando Bloom playing that role. I was like, oh, they got him to play a different role. It's like an Easter egg kind of thing. And then Legolas shows up. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's not Orlando then. But he looks just like Orlando.
I think visually he looks like a combination of what if Orlando Bloom and Johnny Depp did a fusion dance.
I don't know about... I don't think Johnny Depp's gruff enough. I think he whatever the name of the actor is that I'm really struggling to remember. Yeah. He's like a gruffer looking version of Orlando Bloom. But yeah, honestly, I was convinced about that. But there's consequences. I mean, the dwarf from being human ends up in a prison cell at one point.
And then they get out straight away.
Yes, but he still ended up there. Consequence.
And somehow, he got out because Frodo had the ring, and they didn't realize. And they didn't realize it was the Ring of Power for one. Gandalf didn't realize it was the Ring of Power, even though you came close in the first movie to touching it. He was like, "Oh God."
Gandalf was barely involved in anything that happened in those movies. In the Hobbit films.
No, I'm talking about in comparison to what we've seen.
But I'm saying, of course, Gandalf didn't know because he basically didn't do anything.
Wait, and Galadriel, who knew exactly what the ring was, without anybody actually, no, she knew about the ring bearer beforehand. But she knew, she could feel that she could feel that Frodo had the ring from a distance. So, why couldn't she tell that Frodo actually had the Ring of Power with him?
I don't know. But just to jump once again off your comment of saying that you don't think there's anything good about them, I think
there's good in the films. I just don't think it's as... I don't want to go around the route of realistic or anything. I just don't think there's enough believable tension.
I'd agree with that. I'll agree with that completely. But I do think there are elements that are good in it. I think not that this makes a film, but it's visually, it's a nice film.
It is.
Once again, I like the actors in the film. Martin somebody is the guy that plays the main character. I'm really struggling with names today.
Martin, that guy.
Martin, that guy who plays the dude who is a
He
hobbit.
doesn't play the dude from...
He doesn't play the dude,
Yeah.
he plays the hobbit, but he's not called the hobbit. He's got two names, and I can't remember either of them. The burglar, or just burglar, is his title, if you will.
Mhm.
But I do not... What the bloody hell is the hobbit's name?
Which hobbit?
The main hobbit in The Hobbit.
No, not Frodo. Frodo's the one from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Bilbo
Bilbo
Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins. Yeah, that guy. I like him as an actor.
He's good. He's
Yeah.
really good.
I think, what was the first film I ever saw him in? It was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like that film, and I'll confess I didn't the first time I saw it. But we
will clarify, because there's actually two Hitchhiker's Guides to the Galaxy.
Not as far as I'm aware.
There is an original.
Well, I'm talking about the one with Martin Thingamabob in.
And Stephen Fry.
And yes, Stephen Fry. He's
Stephen Fry,
narrator
love
and
you.
everything. You're awesome, man. I actually didn't love that film the first time I saw it, but I think because of the robot, the depressive robot that's in it, and I think just going back to rewatch the film, and also the fish song at the beginning of that film, which had me laughing.
I don't remember that one.
Thanks for all the fish.
Oh, right, with the dolphins.
Yeah, with the dolphins. I think I kept going back to check the film out again and again for that reason. It's going on it's like a lot every time. Every time I go back and watch it, I like it just that bit.
Yeah.
So it's a good film.
I think the only part in The Hitchhikers that I don't like is the bar scene, but that's it.
I don't remember who it is, but I actually found out who voiced the robot in the film, and it blew me away because I've seen that guy in other things, and I'm like, you do not sound anything like that.
It's not a British comedian, is it?
No, I do not remember who the hell it is.
Because it's not Ricky Gervais, is it?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think so.
I think this sounds similar.
He probably went for that kind of vibe, but
it's not Lee Evans.
it's definitely not Lee
Not
Evans.
I've got no idea.
Just
Peter Kay?
No, it wasn't.
See, I've barely watched Peter Kay to even say that. Wait,
No, I don't think it was.
the other guy.
Yes, the other guy.
With Ricky. Did I say Ricky Gervais?
You've already said Ricky Gervais.
The other guy, the tall one with glasses.
See, I was thinking maybe him, but I think I would have accepted it being him because he kind of sounds like that anyway. But whoever it was, I cannot remember. I'd have to IMDb it. I just was like, what? I do not. Oh, wow. But yeah, that's us going off topic completely from talking about movie aspects. So is there anything else? So I assume you like the pre-production side more than I do. Yeah?
Yes. I like, especially now, doing camera stuff, audio stuff. Again, I will do, well, apart from writing scripts, I can't write scripts. I don't like writing scripts. I like coming up with the ideas and fleshing out those ideas, but I will never put those ideas down on paper. I will probably remember the ideas that I have, and forget some of them, but that's usually good for me, because then I'll add something else that's just totally new and usually unrelated, but I can get it to fit. So during the creative process, I think I have a little bit more freedom because I work pretty much on the fly like you do. I'm more at my element when I'm just not bogged down by any guidelines or anything.
Yeah. So what was I gonna? Have you not considered maybe what would be a better idea is to actually put those ideas down on paper, allow yourself to forget about them just like you would anyway, and then put whatever new idea that replaces it also down on paper again, and then go back and check your old idea to sort of see, is this idea actually better than that one? Or maybe have I just forgotten that one and forgotten why it was so good?
No. I will never put anything down on paper, because as soon as I start putting things down on paper, I will immediately lose my flow and I will try too hard. It's like the case when I'm using music programs. I'll starting off with FL Studio, I think I'm on 12, you're on 10. I wrote a couple of pieces, and they were short and they were okay for like a first time thing. And then it came to the point where it's like I started analyzing those songs, or rather melodies. I analyze the songs, melodies.
Either or.
I analyze the melodies. I don't have a song. And I was like, it sounds good. Could do with a little bit here, could do with a little bit there. I tried to edit the song, and it sounded crap.
Right.
And then I went back to thinking, well, I know how the program works now. I know how to chord things. I know which point the keyboards are black and white keys. But then I come to doing FL Studio again, and I'm just absolutely awful. The first 2 tracks I made had like drums and a guitar and a bass in it. Now I can just get a guitar riff, probably, and then maybe some drums, but they won't fit, and maybe a bass, but it won't go along with the guitar work that I've got down. So it's kind of like I can never find that path to, I don't want to say innocence, but I can't find that path to ignorance again.
Right.
So that becomes my stopping point when I'm doing anything creatively.
Well, that's all fair enough, but have you not considered that maybe, like, it's fair enough keeping your flow, but if you're just trying to conceive ideas, and in that flow process, you end up just forgetting all of those ideas. You don't end up having anything by the end of the day. So
then I just come up with something new.
But even if you had something that was really good?
Yeah, I just come up with something new if I forget about it.
But then you could end up losing something that maybe was there, had some really good potential.
If it's really good, I will never forget about it. I have not, for example...
I've seen how your memory banks work.
Oh yeah, it's very selective. But it's like the case where my first proper original character that I've made, I have not forgotten any of his aspects. I have not forgotten his character. I've not forgotten his character arc, which is technically still ongoing. Especially if he's going to be placed into a game later on, whether that be Skyrim or something else. No, if the idea is really good, like I haven't forgotten. You guys won't understand, but I haven't forgotten the premise of Black Candle, for example.
Yeah.
Or its other name, Luctus Tenebris, and Elrond Telemnir. The only one that I forgot is yours.
See, if you'd just written it down.
I don't need to write it down. You
don't remember it.
I don't need to remember it because I remember specifically using a elvish name generator, and you put in your name and stuff.
And does this generate randomly, or will
No,
it
does not.
specifically give you the same name again?
Specifically, I don't know how it works, but specifically for whatever you've put in.
All right. Well, see, that's fair enough with something like that when you're cheating by using another machine to help you come up with it. But I mean, for example, for one of our film projects that we've worked on, every time we come up with an idea for it, I've got a huge list for it. And half the time we've ended up forgetting about half the ideas that we've come up with. And I'll go down through that list and look at them again, even read them off to you. And we'll end up just in stitches for a good 10 minutes about it. But we'd lose all those great ideas if it wasn't for the fact that I'd write it down. So I just think maybe... I mean, personally, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the pre-production side of things. I think it's also just because pre-production drags. Pre-production is like the longest section of any of the production stages, because pre-production can last from anywhere from 1 month to 10 years and beyond that as well.
Especially for indie titles.
As we know very well through some of our projects that are probably reaching around about 10 years old since conception. But once you actually get to the physics, so I guess, as I'm just going to end up repeating myself again here, just going on about the production side and the post-production side. But which one do you preference out of the three? So actually like conceiving the idea, making the idea, or the idea now existing and you just have to complete it, as in like edit and add the effects and sound and all that stuff?
I don't like completing a project. I don't like completing a project. it's not the case where it's just become a habit where I just don't complete a project. It's more of the case where if I finish this project, there's going to be that's the finished project. I can't work on this project anymore. It's done. And I won't even go back to saying stuff like, "Oh, I'll make a movie in 720p and then later I'll upscale it in 4K." No, if I've shot it in 720p, it's going to be in 720p. I ain't going to change it from that. Even if people are going to ask for it, I'm not changing it. It's shot the way it's intended to be shot. If later on down the line, during shooting, I decide everything looks better in 1080p or 4K, I'll be like, okay, we're going to shoot everything again. Maybe I'll change some things as we're going. But on the general, no, I don't like finishing a project. I like the pre-production and the production itself.
Right. So which is, I guess, is one of the reasons what makes us a good team. Considering you like pre-production and production, and not so fond of the post-production, whereas I don't like pre-production. I love production. So we both love the production work, and I really love post-production work. So it means, we're nicely balanced when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we work well as a team.
Although I feel it's going to cause a lot of arguments if we do come up with a movie.
Oh, it's caused arguments before in the past, but that's what makes a good team.
Yeah.
We'd be a pretty bland team, I think, if we always just agreed with one another on every single choice and never tried to fight an idea, because that's ultimately how we're going to end up getting the best ideas out there, because eventually one of us will agree, actually, you know what, that is the best idea.
If anybody needs 2 amateur directors, we're up for it if you're in the UK.
Yeah, but don't rely on him for post-production side, because as he just said, he'll never finish it.
I'll want to keep working on it. He'll want to finish it.
He doesn't like to finish.
No, I don't like to finish. Just keep going and going and going.
Speaking of stuff that seems to just keep going and going in potentially an upwards direction, movie budgets, man.
Yes.
They're rising all of the time.
Yes.
Getting bigger and bigger. Thoughts?
Well, I guess it comes to the question of how much do you have? How much can you spend? How much are you going to get in return? Which are all subjective. I suppose if in the case you've got a really good IP, it's got a really strong fan base. The fan base has got to be asking for it, and this goes for any product. If you're going to deliver a product and there's nobody who actually wants that product to begin with, you've already failed as a business.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
When I say nobody, I mean that literally.
Yeah, but, well, that's the thing. First of all, you're very rarely ever going to find anything like that, because somebody's going to probably want it. But there's often sometimes cases where maybe people just don't know that they want it. People might think that something is a terrible idea, but once they've actually seen it, then they might be like, holy shit, I was so wrong about that. Something other people might never have even conceived of. You come up with that idea, nobody's asking for it, but that's because nobody else has thought of it. So you're like, wait until they see it though. Then they'll want it. They'll want more of it after that. So I don't necessarily agree just because no one's asking for it, then it's a failed project to start off with.
What if someone's asking for it?
If someone's asking for it, they're going to get it.
Okay, so taking your point into consideration, if you've got an IP for a movie and barely anybody is asking for it, it's probably not a good idea to get a huge budget.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not to get a huge budget. I think that's where a lot of films end up failing, especially along the lines of franchise-based stuff. I think there's films that will come out today that should have been made 20 years ago or something. They're just far too late in the game now, making these films now, that the fan base isn't quite there anymore. And so no one's really clamoring for it. Or they'll say that they're going to make a movie that people do want to see, but they'll change it so entirely that it doesn't even deserve to have that title on it anymore. And at that point, because you're then essentially pushing something down this fan base's neck that they really don't want, that's where your movie's going to flop. And especially if it's franchise based, because at that point you're going to be like, it's franchise based, it's going to make a ton of money, let's give it a huge budget, we can go all out with it. And then, but because you've made something nobody wanted to see in the first place, your movie ends up making no money whatsoever, and that ends up being a much bigger loss for the studio. And that, especially if you're like a director or something, that can really hurt you in the future, because then no other studio is going to want to hire you at that point, because they're just going to look at you, see how much money you've made a studio before, and be like, nope, staying away from you.
Then become an indie director.
Well, I mean, it usually happens the other way around, but often in cases where a director hasn't had a lot of success, they'll go back to indie films to sort of try and push themselves to be more creative again and prove themselves once again to the world that, no, I'm still relevant. But that's the best thing, because you're starting off with that smaller budget, and even if you do get a studio to give you backing on that film, if you've got a really small budget, the studio's not going to care about what you do with that movie. They're not, like on the big franchise stuff where you always hear the stories about the studios trying to take control of the film and trying to change stuff that the director doesn't want. If you got a small budget film, studios aren't going to do that. Just because the fact, yes, it still could potentially risk in a loss of money, but studios aren't expecting a huge return from that film in the first place. And so they're basically like, yeah, just do what you want with the film, we don't care. And then in the scenario where ends up being super successful because you've had to be creative, because really the less money you've got for a film, the more creative you have to be in order to make it something special. In that case, then you might end up getting yourself a sequel, or more studios might end up looking towards you to make their bigger films, because if you did that with a small film with next to no budget, what could you possibly do with a $200 million dollar budget on top of that? So, but do you think there should be a limit on movie budgets? A cap, if you will?
I think the cap should be dependent on how the movie market as a whole, or no. If you're doing it from an IP that's already pre-established, I think it should be dependent on how many shares it's got, how much money it's currently making, how much merchandise it's pushing at the time. Because if it's already got a huge merchandise pool, then adding something else to it that might potentially be lost or not make as much money is pointless. You need to find that happy medium between a big fan base, a good IP, and not an overflow of merch. Maybe some merch, maybe like t-shirts, a few figures, some fan made. It's actually going for a franchise that probably has a lot of fan made product, like statues and whatnot. Maybe that would be something to take in consideration as well. So yeah, I'd say just taking the market. If you're doing something for an IP that's pre-established, taking that market. But if it's something new, something that's seriously original that we haven't seen before, I don't know if you put a cap on something like that. Because fair enough, there is no market whatsoever. So therefore, there is, on a technical standpoint, there is no real loss to be made apart from it being even more unpopular than not popular at all. So I'd say maybe, I think, okay, if it's a totally new IP that we've never seen, that the director's a total unknown, I think the studio then should take in how much money they're currently getting, and divide some of that between some, I don't want to say indie developers, but some new directors and some new IPs, and that'll be dependent on their market and how much they're making at the time. So it would be the case where if you're a new, actually that would be pretty cool. If you're a new director, you would go to said company. If you want to do like a small budget, you would go to said company. If you need a bit more money, obviously there'll probably be like some processing to do with previous projects that you've worked on before, and they'll probably make an even more judgment on that from there. But yeah, I think for new IPs, new developers. Well, technically, yes, they are developers. New directors. That should be entirely studio based, but it should be capped at something.
Right. Yeah. I think I agree that if it's a smaller film, if it's original, not seen it before, no matter how big the film could potentially blow up to be, you have to cap them at a small price range. Just because ultimately, the hardest thing in the world to do is going to be marketing that film. And marketing price comes to round about the exact same as what the actual film's budget was. So if a film had a budget of 5 million, then its marketing is probably going to be around about 5 million.
That shouldn't be the case.
Well, in fact, marketing's expensive to begin with. So like if you think about like the big franchises and stuff, when they've got a $250 million budget just for the film alone, then they're spending $250 million as well just on the marketing. Because they've spent more money on that film, they have to spend more money on the marketing side of it because they need that film to make money. But that film is also easier to market because it's pre-established. Everybody knows what it is, especially if it's something that can build hype up as well, because then other people will get excited about it, which will spread, and then other people start checking that kind of thing out.
You seen, we talking about new directors there?
Yeah, I'm talking about in the scenario of like a big Hollywood blockbuster movie, they have to spend a lot of money on the marketing side because they need the film to make its money back.
Right.
But it's easier to market that film. So it's kind of like, I would not necessarily balances the scales, but it's kind of like you get a rough idea of what I'm saying. I can't quite get my words together.
Right.
But with in like an indie film or something, they don't need to spend as much money on the marketing for it just because they haven't spent as much money on the film. So it's going to be a smaller loss. They're not as desperate for that film to make its money back. They're not going to be crushed if the film loses money or just doesn't make all of its money back. But at the same time, it's much more difficult to market that film because someone sees that, they're not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that film's coming out. They're going to be like, oh, what's this? That either looks interesting or, I'm not interested in that. And so then they either do or don't go to the cinema to see it. And so you can't go putting a $250 million into marketing a film that was $5 million to make, because at that point you're guaranteeing the film is going to lose you money because the studio spent all that money on the marketing. It's just pointless. The studio's going to just end up wasting all that money. So I do agree. Yes, it's difficult to market, so they should try and push the marketing a bit further with those type of films. Like, if a film came out tomorrow that was called Purple Howard in the Cold Rain, right? And one studio is pumping out that film, and another studio is pumping out freaking Star Wars or something. They don't need to market Star Wars as heavily, as compared to what the other studio needs to market Purple Howard. But it's so much, but they need to put more money into that marketing with Star Wars because Star Wars would have cost them $250 million to make, whereas Purple Howard's only like, it's a $5 million movie. So if it doesn't make $5 million back, okay, we've only lost such and such amount. Or if it does make enough back, we're probably just going to make an extra $1 million or $2 million with this film. So we're not expecting big returns from it. Whereas this film, it's like, we need this film to make money. We're fucked if this film doesn't make money. So like, yes, unfortunately, it is the case where the bigger the film, the bigger the budget it gets. But at the same time, I think that can be rewarding to a degree because it means the newer directors have to really prove themselves that they're actually capable at the job. They've got to be more creative because they've got less money to work with. And if they prove themselves, the reward for that is, well, now he has more money, make something even bigger, and you can keep getting. Now, of course, that's dangerous because some directors just let it all go to their heads, and then they just stop pumping out turds. But in a lot of scenarios, it ends up working out. I mean, I guess it's debatable because the percentage for good films versus bad films is probably on a very uneven scale right now. But yeah, unfortunately, I do kind of agree. Not that the system may be perfect right now as it is, but I do think big movies still should probably be capped. I don't think the Hollywood studios should be allowed to just keep raising and raising the money up, because ultimately what's happening is you're hearing all these stories about how Star Wars is now the third highest grossing film of all time.
Mhm.
Well, one of the big reasons for that is because ticket prices cost more than what they did back in the day. Now, I'm not saying they cost like a huge difference, but it's still they cost more than what they did in the day. Now you can argue yes, but it cost the film more to make, so it's kind of it evens that out. But the reason that the ticket prices cost more is because the film costs more to make, and the more they keep upping the budget, of the film itself, the more money they keep spending, then the harder it's going to be for them to make that money back. So what do? They up the ticket prices. The higher the ticket price, the more money they get back. So it's a kind of a bit of a vicious cycle, especially for us as the audience members, which is a big reason why we should actually care about what the movie budget is, because once again, when the day hits that movies are getting $600 million budgets, we're probably looking at around about 20 quid a ticket at the cinema, which at that point is just going to get ridiculous, and that's going to hurt the cinema, because at that point people are probably going to stop going altogether. So I do think they should be capped. I think right now you could make an argument that their budget is bigger than what it needs to be. But I think its budget is fine where it is at the moment. But I think maybe cap it at like 300 million or something. I know, for example, what is it? I don't know if this is actually true. I heard this 2 years ago. But there was a film being made. It was a 2-part film. And it was in like, I don't know if it was being shot in London or something. The only film that was a 2-part film being shot at the time was in London was the Avengers 3 and 4 movies. And I think, what was it they said? They said it had a $1 billion movie budget because each film was 500 million each. And so at that point you're like, okay, yes, this is the big finale. But it's like, really? $1 billion?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be a 4-hour movie. I think what we've heard is number 3 is going to be like, it's like 2 hours and a half or something, 2 hours and 40 minutes maybe. So I'm like, that doesn't justify 500 million. And what are the ticket prices going to be like? Because that's next year. They might not jump straight away, but then if Avengers is super successful at a $500 million budget, other studios are going to be like, well, we can be successful at $500 million. Look how much Avengers made. And then we'll start getting more of that, and then the ticket prices will start going up, and then we're looking at 15, 16, 17 pound a ticket. So I think capping it at like 300 maximum, you can maybe just stretch it to 350 if it's justified. But I think 300 should probably be the cap for something like a big studio. I can't really make a judgment for what the cap should be on an indie film, because I think that depends on what your indie film is. Because in my head I'm thinking, I don't know, 10 mil maybe should be the cap for that. But I haven't really looked into what the average right now is for an indie film's budget. I know it's above 5 mil, but I think it's quite a big range. But it's like a range from 5 mil to like 30 mil or something is the range for indie films. So I wouldn't want to like cap it at 10 or something, because I don't know how much that would actually hurt the film, some potential indie films itself. So I can't have a good judgment on that. But I do know in terms of the bigger films, I think 300, you haven't really got much of a reason. Considering the films and what's possible to do in film today, I don't really think there's a justified reason to go over the 300 million mark. Not that I've got experience there doing it myself, so it's not like I've spent time saying, oh, well, you've got to pay the actors this. I think that's a big reason why the Avengers movie's that much, because the cast that they've got in that film is ridiculous. Consider the amount you've got to pay Robert Downey Jr. for starters, and then you've got to pay actors like Benedict Cumberbatch, Chris Evans, Hemsworth, Ruffalo, just on and on and on. But that's just 4 actors out of the huge A-list of actors that they've got work just on that film alone. So if it's coming up to like 300 million just to pay those actors, and then it's like a $200 million movie budget at that point. So I guess that's a justification for going over, but at the same time, we're the ones that ultimately pay the price for it. So I don't know how you'd really balance that one out.
Easy. You cap how much an actor can be paid.
Well, I think maybe, yeah, you don't let an actor almost, not quite blackmail you, but kind of force your hand into basically giving them however much you want, however much they want.
Although isn't an actor's value determined by his agents and whatnot?
Well, no, not really.
By his like market
it's
share and
like
stuff.
pretty much everything. It's a what have you done for me lately kind of business. So really, it's how much money are you making for this film? And I don't mean how much money are they earning. I mean, just because you're in this movie, how much money is this movie now going to make? And I think, because I think it was in the first, it was either in the first Avengers movie or round about the time of Avengers, Iron Man 3, when Robert Downey Jr. really pumped the brakes on, or hit the accelerator on his payment. But his argument for that was because most people were going to see Avengers for Iron Man. That was the big reason for it, which at the time it was partially true because Iron Man was the huge star of the Marvel Universe at that point in time. But as much as I think Robert Downey Jr. deserves a lot of money, especially for being in the Marvel films, and he does because he's done a lot more than just act for them. He's brought actors on board for it. He's convinced actors who wanted to leave to stay. Actors who have left, he's brought back. He does a lot more than just acting for them, so he deserves more than just an average, just an actor's pay for it. I agree with that, and he's done a lot for the Marvel.
Well, in that case, he shouldn't be just put down in the credits for an acting role.
Well, technically, especially if you're keeping actors on board, he could get a credit for an executive producer.
And all public relations.
Well, executive producer has a massive range on it, and if you just relate it to any aspect of helping a film being made, you can have a credit as an executive producer.
Right.
So technically, you probably could get a credit for something like that, but I think he's more gotten involved in terms of the universe as a whole, as opposed to like a specific film in itself. So that's probably why he doesn't typically get a credit for that kind of stuff. But like I said, he deserves more than just an average like actor's pay or whatever.
Yeah.
Plus, he's a big name, so he's naturally going to get more.
Yeah.
But I don't quite think he deserves as much as he actually gets paid, because he's half the reason why the Marvel's movie budgets are as big as what they are. If he shows up in them, Marvel's got to like really up that budget for the film, just so they can pay him money.
That's why you get an actor on a contract. And you say you're going to get paid this much for this movie, that much for that movie.
Well, that's the thing, especially with Robert Downey Jr., they did have him on a contract.
Right.
And he was only going to get paid so much, but then his contract ran out. And they weren't done with him at that point. So they wanted him to sign a new contract. And he was like, well, if you want us to sign a new contract, you're going to pay us this much.
Right.
And so at the time, Marvel had no choice, because if they didn't bring him back, not everyone, but a lot of people would stop going to see their movies. Whereas if they keep him on board, they're going to keep making money. So they're like, there isn't really a win-win situation here.
It's easy, you just get Johnny Depp to replace him.
And so, I mean, honestly, I don't know how much longer Downey's going to be involved with their films, at least, because half the time it seems like after the next bunch of Avengers films, he's going to be finished with it.
Yeah.
And then at other times, it seems like he never wants to leave the place, just because he's getting involved with so much more than just Iron Man / Avenger movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know how long they're going to have to keep up that payment, but I think the world is ready to accept now. Like, back when he was originally going to leave his role as Tony Stark, I think the world wasn't quite ready for that at that time. I think we're ready for it now. I think we could accept if Tony Stark left the MCU.
I would say more of Rhodey.
I'm not like as miffed about it as I was back in when Iron Man 2 first came out. But I think it's Terrence Howard who played Rhodey originally in the first Iron Man movie. I'm still a little sad that he doesn't play the character anymore.
Never got to put on the suit.
Yeah, no, next time.
Why did he, why wasn't he in the second?
He wasn't in the second because Marvel had to deduct his pay so that they could give more money to Robert Downey Jr.
Marvel, you fucked it up again.
Well, yeah, but it was Robert Downey Jr. who made that demand.
Fuck you, Junior.
You know, and from certain little bits of videos that have come out, Terrence Howard hasn't forgiven him since.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
No.
Which it's just because of at the time, Terrence Howard was bigger than Robert Downey Jr. Back when the first Iron Man came out, so he was actually getting paid more than what Downey was. But when the sequel hit, Downey was like, "Well, this is my film. I'm the lead, so I should be getting paid more than my co-star should." And they were like, "Yeah, you're right." And so they had to deduct. But because that went against Terrence Howard's contract, because his contract said you will get paid this amount, and because they changed that, he was in legal rights to say, "Well, then I'm out of the film." Because I think he was signed on for like 3 or 4 movies, but he gets to drop out of that as soon as the studio decides that they're going to change the contract.
Wait. So, how much money do you reckon Robert got for Spider-Man: Homecoming then? Because by his own definition, he should be paid less than what's his name?
I think one of his justifications was the fact that it was a sequel film, as opposed to just being the first movie, because it's not unnatural for a co-star or someone that has a very small role in the film to get paid more than the lead actor. I mean, Superman 1, for example, has the freaking Godfather playing Superman's dad. He got paid a lot more than what Christopher Reeves did. Just for his small bit in that film. So it's not an unnatural thing, but I don't know how much he got paid for Spider-Man.
Or if you got paid more than...
He definitely got paid more than Tom Holland did.
Tom Holland.
That much. Yeah.
Then you're an asshole, Mr. Junior. I love you.
We love you, man.
But you're a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And if it's your marketing team, they're shit.
Well, they're not, because they're earning you a lot of money.
Well, they're earning him a lot of money, but fucking over the industry.
Well done for you, but, man, screw him over, dude. Right.
Aye.
I think that's that, unless you've got any more, anything else to add.
I was going to add something. I don't remember what it was.
Please do, if you can remember it.
I will try. We will cut to it if I remember it.
Well, then it looks like that's all we've got time for
Pretty
today.
much.
We pretty much made all our points anyway.
Yeah.
I told you his memory banks weren't that good.
2 hours of sleep will do that to you.
Well, it will do that to you. I'll give you. I'll let you off the hook on that one. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've taken something away from the lots of babble that have come out of our mouths. So yeah, thanks for watching. Remember, guys, hit those buttons. Like, subscribe,
All the buttons.
comments, all the buttons.
Press all the buttons on your keyboard.
Every single one.
Every combination.
All
every
the
key
buttons.
binding.
All the buttons.
Even on your phone.
If you're watching on the phone.
Belly button also counts.
I guess.
Just don't do it for too long. That'll be awkward for us.
Bye, guys.
You can stop now.
Bye.